The next move around Los Angeles is starting to take shape, and the front office continues to scan the league with patience rather than urgency. There's been a lot of noise surrounding possible roster tweaks, especially with the outfield remaining an area that could quietly change if the right opportunity presents itself. The organization is not acting out of desperation, but there's a clear awareness that one more versatile piece could balance the roster in a meaningful way if circumstances line up. For a while, many people assumed the focus was centered on a multi-positional player from St. Louis who has built a reputation for doing a little bit of everything. He can move around the infield, slide into the outfield, and cover spots when injuries or rest days demand flexibility. That type of profile naturally draws attention from a team that values adaptability. However, as talks and speculation have evolved, it has become clear that competition for that player is heavy, and Los Angeles does not appear willing to overextend just to win a bidding battle. What makes this situation more interesting is that attention may have shifted within the same organization. Rather than chasing the most talked-about name, the Dodgers seem to be monitoring another outfielder from St. Louis who brings a different kind of appeal. This player is not defined by flash or overwhelming offensive numbers, but by a combination of solid defense, a strong throwing arm, and experience across all outfield positions. That alone makes him worth discussing when evaluating depth and potential solutions. The outfield picture becomes even more complex when you factor in possible movement involving current players. Any trade, even one that seems minor on the surface, can ripple across the roster and create additional openings. That is why the front office is staying flexible, keeping multiple options alive instead of locking into a single target too early in the process. This outfielder's background also adds an intriguing layer. He has shared the field with some of the game's most recognizable international stars in high-pressure tournaments, showing he can handle big moments and elite competition. There is familiarity there, a level of comfort playing alongside players who are already cornerstones in Los Angeles. While chemistry alone does not win games, it can ease transitions and help a player settle into a new environment more quickly. From a performance standpoint, the profile is mixed but not without value. His plate discipline sits comfortably around league average, showing a willingness to take walks without becoming overly passive. Strikeouts are present but not alarming. And while his contact quality does not jump off the page, there is enough bat speed to suggest untapped upside if adjustments are made. The challenge is that a large portion of his contact stays on the ground, limiting extra base impact and putting pressure on batting average rather than power. Defensively, the arm stands out as a real asset, particularly in left field where range and throwing accuracy can change games. In a spacious outfield, that kind of arm strength matters more than it does in tighter parks. His routes are clean, his instincts are reliable, and he offers coverage across all three outfield spots, giving the coaching staff options when constructing lineups over a long season. Injury history, however, cannot be ignored. Multiple physical setbacks have interrupted stretches where momentum seemed to be building. Surgeries and recovery timelines introduce uncertainty, especially when the team is evaluating readiness for the start of a new campaign. Even with team control extending several seasons into the future through arbitration, availability remains just as important as talent. When looking at his most recent season, the production paints the picture of a solid contributor rather than a centerpiece. He appeared across the entire outfield, launched a modest number of home runs, drove in runs at a respectable pace, and posted an on-base percentage that reflects his ability to draw walks. The strikeout total suggests room for refinement, but not a glaring flaw. Overall, the numbers describe a player who fits comfortably in the middle tier of major league outfielders. That is where the internal debate begins. Adding a player like this would raise the floor of the roster, but it would not dramatically raise the ceiling on its own. The Dodgers already possess a championship-caliber core, and expectations are not about patching holes just to survive, but about refining edges to stay ahead of the league. Any move of this nature would need to complement something else, another addition or internal leap that together create a clear upgrade. There is also the comparison factor. When a potential acquisition mirrors the role of players already familiar to the fan base, questions naturally arise about value. If the skill set, injury risk, and overall impact feel similar to options that could be retained or re-signed more easily, the incentive to surrender assets becomes less compelling. That does not make the player undesirable, but it reframes the discussion around cost versus return. The front office has been consistent in its messaging about not needing sweeping changes before the next season begins. Still, acknowledgement of at least one position player being monitored tells its own story. It suggests that while the roster is strong, it is not considered perfect, and the door remains open for the right fit at the right price. If this outfielder were to arrive in Los Angeles, the most logical role would be addressing the current uncertainty in left field. The move would resemble previous short-term solutions aimed at stabilizing that spot while maintaining flexibility. The concern, of course, is repeating a situation where injuries and inconsistency limit the impact of an otherwise reasonable signing or trade. The Dodgers are chasing sustained excellence, not just another banner. Even coming off championship success, there's an understanding that standing still invites regression. That is why every rumor, every name linked to the organization sparks discussion. Some options inspire excitement, others caution, and many fall somewhere in between. This particular possibility lives firmly in that middle ground, useful but not transformative, intriguing but not essential, and entirely dependent on what else might follow. When you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, this type of move reflects how the Dodgers have operated for years. They rarely chase noise for the sake of headlines. Instead, they assess how each piece fits into a long season where depth, durability, and matchup flexibility often matter just as much as star power. That is why a player like this continues to surface in conversations, even if the reaction is not universally enthusiastic. The appeal is rooted in stability. A player who can rotate through all three outfield spots gives the coaching staff breathing room. It allows rest days to be managed more carefully and protects the team from being overly exposed when injuries inevitably arise. Over a full schedule, that kind of insurance quietly adds value, especially for a team with postseason expectations where wear and tear becomes a real factor by late summer. At the same time, there is hesitation because the upside feels capped. This is not someone who instantly changes how opposing teams prepare. Pitchers are not reshaping game plans around him, and defenses are not shifting dramatically when he steps into the box. His offensive profile suggests competence rather than dominance. And while competence has its place, it must align with timing and cost to truly make sense. Another layer to consider is development. The Dodgers have built a reputation for helping players unlock improvements, whether that is swing adjustments, approach refinement, or defensive positioning. With his bat speed and plate awareness, there's a belief that more could be extracted if everything clicks. Turning ground balls into harder line drives, elevating selectively, and tightening contact zones could transform his offensive output without asking him to become someone he is not. That optimism, however, is balanced by physical reality. Recent surgeries introduce risk, and recovery timelines do not always follow clean projections. Even if the long-term control looks appealing on paper, the short-term availability matters more when the goal is to contend immediately. If a player is not ready at the start of the season, the value equation changes, especially when internal options are already in place. This is where comparisons to past moves resurface. The Dodgers have experimented with similar profiles before, players who looked like safe bets to stabilize a position but ultimately delivered mixed results due to health or inconsistency. Those experiences naturally shape how fans and decision-makers evaluate the next potential addition. No one wants to repeat a scenario where expectations and outcomes never fully align. Still, dismissing the idea outright would be short-sighted. Baseball seasons are rarely linear, and depth pieces often end up playing more meaningful roles than initially anticipated. A player viewed as a complementary addition in March can become a crucial contributor by July if circumstances shift. That is part of why the front office remains patient rather than dismissive. There is also the matter of trade dynamics. Acquiring this outfielder would not require stripping the farm system, but it would still involve opportunity cost. Prospects, even those not projected as stars, carry value as currency for future moves. If the return does not clearly move the needle, hesitation is justified. The Dodgers have the luxury of waiting because their baseline roster is already strong. What complicates things further is timing. Offseason narratives evolve quickly, and what feels unnecessary today can feel urgent after one injury or one unexpected departure. The front office must decide whether acting early provides an advantage or whether patience preserves flexibility for a more impactful move later. This is why opinions remain divided. Some see the move as a smart, low-risk way to shore up the outfield and prepare for the grind ahead. Others view it as redundant, a solution searching for a problem, especially if it mirrors players already familiar to the roster. Both perspectives hold merit depending on what follows. Ultimately, this potential addition cannot be evaluated in isolation. Its true value depends entirely on context. If paired with another move that addresses a different need, the combined effect could be meaningful. If it stands alone, it risks feeling underwhelming despite being technically sound. The Dodgers are not in a position where they need to force anything. That is both a blessing and a challenge. Every decision is scrutinized through the lens of championship expectations, and marginal upgrades are judged harshly when banners already hang in the stadium. The margin for error is smaller when the standard is sustained dominance. For now, this remains a situation defined by monitoring rather than momentum. Interest exists, conversations continue, and evaluations are ongoing. Whether this name becomes more than speculation depends on how the board shifts, how health reports develop, and whether the front office believes this is the right piece to complement what is already one of the most complete rosters in baseball. As the discussion lingers, what really stands out is how calculated everything feels. Nothing about this possible move suggests panic or a rush to plug a hole. Instead, it reflects a front office that understands the difference between depth for comfort and upgrades for impact. The Dodgers already operate from a position of strength, which allows them to explore options like this without pressure to act immediately. The internal conversation likely revolves around roles rather than headlines. This is not about finding the next face of the franchise, but about identifying someone who can absorb innings, handle matchups, and keep the roster balanced when the inevitable stretches of fatigue and minor injuries arrive. Over the course of a long season, that kind of contribution can quietly influence wins even if it never dominates post-game discussions. There is also an element of adaptability at play. A player who can move across the outfield gives the staff freedom to mix and match lineups based on opposing pitching. Left-handed balance, defensive alignment late in games, and rest management all become easier when one roster spot covers multiple needs. That flexibility has long been a hallmark of how this team operates. Still, restraint remains important. The Dodgers do not need to fill space just to say they made a move. Every roster decision is weighed against internal options, including younger players who may be ready to take on larger roles. Blocking that development with an external addition only makes sense if the upgrade is clear or if the risk profile aligns with long-term planning. But before we move forward, don't forget to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest news about the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the news, so drop a comment below. Rumors are swirling through Major League Baseball as whispers of a potential seismic shift in the Dodgers roster begin to take shape. Sources close to the organization suggest that ADLEY RUTSCHMAN, widely regarded as one of the most promising catchers in recent memory, may already be making waves in Los Angeles, even before stepping onto a major league diamond for the team. Known for his exceptional defensive instincts and lightning-quick reflexes behind the plate, RUTSCHMAN has long been touted as a generational talent, and the Dodgers' rumored interest in him has ignited a frenzy among fans and analysts alike. Insiders hint that the Dodgers envision him not merely as a solid addition, but as a cornerstone, someone capable of transforming their pitching staff's dynamics with his presence alone. There is talk of RUTSCHMAN's Muralha potential, a Portuguese word meaning wall, suggesting that his defense could become an almost impenetrable force, frustrating even the most prolific hitters. Speculators are already drawing parallels to legendary catchers who have redefined the position, arguing that if Rutschman lives up to the hype, the Dodgers could be looking at a player who alters the trajectory of the franchise for years to come. The excitement is not limited to defense. Scouts reportedly rave about his ability to frame pitches with surgical precision, call games with a strategic mind far beyond his years, and contribute offensively with timely hitting and power that could turn the tide in crucial moments. Rumors suggest that the Dodgers front office sees him as the perfect complement to a pitching rotation hungry for stability, giving young arms confidence and veterans a reliable presence they can trust in high-pressure situations. While no official confirmation has been made about how the team plans to integrate Rutschman into the roster immediately, insiders speculate that his arrival could spark a series of strategic moves, from lineup adjustments to potential trades aimed at optimizing the squad around his skill set. The mere idea of Rutschman behind the plate has fans buzzing, imagining a future where opposing hitters struggle night after night against a catcher who seemingly anticipates every pitch before it leaves the mound. As the Dodgers rumors continue to circulate, the MLB community watches eagerly, aware that if this speculation proves true, the league could witness the emergence of a defensive titan, a Muralha, who turns the catcher position into an art form and solidifies Los Angeles as a destination for elite talent. Whether all this speculation holds water remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. The notion of ADLEY Rutschman donning a Dodgers uniform is already enough to send shockwaves through baseball conversations nationwide. That's all for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with exclusive news about the Los Angeles Dodgers, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We always appreciate your comments and feedback. See you in the next video.